Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where we are back with another live stream, and we are back with this series talking relentlessly about Manchester United and how we can progress next season as a team tactically, how we can get better at different things. Like I said, this is part 6. You guys have been loving this series on the streams. I have as well. It's been actually really good fun doing this series. We've covered Manchester United on the ball, playing out from the back. We've covered United progressing the ball. We've covered United trying to score goals. We've covered players that we should look at, how we can high press. And today what we're moving on to is a bit of a combination stream where I want to look at United in the mid-block, because I think it's a really interesting talking point around the club and around Ruben Amorim in general. And I also want to focus on the low block. Also, maybe transitions as well. Maybe we can branch into Manchester United going from defending in those deep situations to then bursting forward. Because I've got a couple of really interesting stats from last season that I want to look at a little bit later on. So yeah, that is the plan for today. Of course, we will go to the trusty tactics board as always. Before we do any of that though, let me move my mic just a little bit closer. Get in the chat and let me know how you're doing. Shout out Serge, Alex and Steve, by the way, who were in the chat early before the stream even started, saying good morning. So good morning to you guys. Zerg, there's loads of people in the chat already, actually. That's insane. Good morning to everybody, or good afternoon, good evening, depends where you are. Welcome to the stream. How are you feeling about Manchester United? Trying to think the latest news that's happened since we last streamed. We haven't had really much transfer news apart from this morning's update about Watkins and Sesko. Seems that those are the two strikers that we're looking at now. So let me know your thoughts there on who you would prefer. Since then, we have also had the match against West Ham. I think an improved performance, but still far from perfect. So let me know how you're feeling about that. And also, just life in general. Life in general. How is life? How are you? What you been up to? Anything interesting you want to share with the chat? Do let us know. And then once we're done with that, we'll get into talking about United and, like I said, that mid-block into low-block conversation, because I think it's something which gets overlooked at times. We've heard a lot about United in the build-up phase and particularly on goal kicks. I'm responsible for that, the centre-back in midfield, not shutting up about it. That's a big conversation at the moment. Also, the high press is something that gets spoken about a lot. But I don't know if that next phase, that next line of defence actually gets spoken enough regularly enough. Probably my fault partly. So that's something I really want to cover today to sort of wrap up this series that we've been going through. And then after that, we'll figure out where we're going next with this streaming series. We'll figure out what we're going to line up. Perhaps some signings late on in the transfer window. It's something that we could look at. Who do I prefer between Watkins and Sesko? Well, like everyone, I have to start off by saying it really depends on the price. It really depends on the price. I think for someone like Watkins, 30 years old, you don't want to go more than 45 million. But I think if you can get Watkins for 35, 40, I'd be all over that. I think he is my favourite striker that we've been linked with this summer, including when we were linked with the likes of Gyökeres. Watkins is the one that I'm the most sold on in terms of being Premier League proven. There's certain things that he does that I really like. I think tactically he'd be a good fit. He ticks so many boxes. He's just a little bit old, so we can't afford to spend too much. Sesko, obviously a great talent. Are we in the place to be signing a talent, though, rather than a proven player? I'm not sure. He would be expensive. Are we the right environment to help him improve and to reach his potential? That is the question. In recent years, we haven't, but that doesn't mean that will always be the case. So it is a tricky one. I would be going towards Watkins. Watkins is the signing that I would make up front, but only if the price is right. If the price isn't right, honestly, a lot of people probably won't agree, but I would save the money. I wouldn't sign a striker this summer if we can't get Watkins. I'd probably save the money and try again next summer and spend this summer trying to work on the midfield. That's probably how I would approach the situation. David, good morning to you, my friend. Thank you very much for the gifted membership, guys. You know what to do when you see someone like David in the chat gifted memberships. That chat has to be full of love hearts straight away to say thank you to David, because he is an absolute legend. So make sure to say thank you. Nev, good morning to you as well. My friend Paddy, good morning. We've got a busy old chat first thing, and I absolutely love to see that. I'd get Watkins for 50, but not more. I think that's reasonable. Like I said, my cutoff would be about 45 million-ish. Can we even afford Sesko? I guess so. The fact that we're even in discussions, I believe it came out that we went for we spoke to XTK sort of last minute before he went to Liverpool. If we were even involved in those conversations, that suggests to me we've got more money than what we think. So I would assume so. I would assume we can afford it. If not, I don't think the conversations would be there. And the conversations are coming from reliable sources. So I do trust that we can afford him. It probably wouldn't leave us too much to play with after that, though, without getting some serious money coming into the club. Signing Sesko weakens Newcastle too. Double reason to grab him. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people applying that logic. I don't know if people are applying the logic actually seriously or with a little bit of sarcasm. I doubt it comes into United's thought process too much. I wouldn't have thought. Alex also with the gifted membership. Alex, thank you very much, guys. Again, you know what to do. You see a gifted membership, a super chat, anything like that. That chat has to be full of love hearts because it's people like Alex, people like David supporting the channel, which keeps the channel going. So thank you very much, Alex. That is very, very kind of you, sir. Hey, AJ, which midfielder would you like to buy from the Premier League? Would you like to buy Premier League proven or out of the Premier League? That would be so dependent on the individuals involved in the conversation. We don't have to sign Premier League proven. It helps. You know, you tend to think you're going to get a quicker impact. If someone knows the league, they're probably going to adjust quicker. But there's no guarantee of that. Mason Mount was Premier League proven and it hasn't exactly worked. Bruno Fernandes we signed from Portugal and he hit the ground running immediately. So it doesn't. It's more about the individual for me. It's more about the individual. Up front is a little bit different because of the experiments that we've had going on for the past 3 or 4 seasons. I do just want to make one comment on the whole Sesko situation before we get into this stream, and that is, I think a lot of us are scarred from Højlund. And I don't mean that in a harsh way to Højlund, but he was, of course, this young, promising striker, quite a raw profile that we signed for a lot of money, and it hasn't worked. And I think everyone now has this feeling in their head that we can't do that again. We can't go spend big on Sesko again, a young, raw, unproven striker, because it didn't work with Højlund. What I would say is they're completely different people. They're different profiles. They play the game slightly differently, but they are different humans. They've played in different leagues to each other in their history. They were raised in different backgrounds, in different environments. They got different confidence levels, all things like this. So just because Højlund failed, it doesn't mean that Sesko would. And also, Højlund hasn't failed yet. He's still very young, still got plenty of time to grow. I think the environment is big and the players around them. If you think about Højlund, the attack he's had around him since he's been here, he had Rashford was the experienced one, but that was an unsettled Rashford. Rashford being eased out of the club. He's had Garnacho, who inexperienced, Ahmad inexperienced, Sancho kind of, not really. He's not really been at the club. Anthony failed to get going in the Premier League, so Højlund has never had those players around him, which has made his life very difficult. For Sesko, if he was to sign, you've got Mbeumo and Cunha. You've got 2 much more experienced players who know the league much better. So I don't think just because Højlund hasn't worked so far, that doesn't mean Sesko definitely wouldn't. I do just want to make that point very clear because they're not the same person. It's not the same situation. So just because one hasn't worked, it doesn't mean the other can't. And also, I still think Højlund can work. We've just got a job as a football club to make him a better footballer, but you know that's why you sign players with high potential. We haven't done that side of the job, so it's our fault as much as Højlund's and everyone else's. So I think that's something that we have to keep in mind. Something else that we need to keep in mind at Manchester United is the way that we defend, because I think against West Ham we saw some improvements from Manchester United. I think we looked better than what we did in the first game, which is natural as fitness builds up, as sharpness builds up. Lovely. But there's still spells where we go a long, long time without the ball. We saw it against Leeds as well, particularly in the first half. Large parts of the game where we just sit there without the ball, almost just waiting for the opposition to do something to us. And I think if Leeds and West Ham are doing that to us in pre-season, there's a slight problem in terms of heading into the new campaign. We all want United to be dominant. Dominant can mean different things, but we want United to be a dominant side. It's what we should be as a football club. And I think to get there, we do need a tweak to the defensive approach. We discussed last week the high press, how in moments it works quite nicely, how we could change things. I think we had quite a good discussion there, thanks to you guys. We do need to discuss the mid-block, because what I saw at the weekend was a mid-block which at times was really, really effective. I think Ugarte was brilliant in that game at the weekend. The way he would jump out from the mid-block into more of an aggressive situation. So let's say, you know, initially he's in this position here, and then just one loose pass and Ugarte would be there, hyper aggressive, trying to win the ball back. I love that. But also, we do know that there are a lot of situations where the wing backs sort of get pinned back. We end up in a back five. If we've got five across the back line, it means we've got less in midfield or less in the forward line, and it becomes a little bit too easy for teams to move the ball forward. So the discussion today is going to be about trying to correct that, or how we would go about correcting it, and then perhaps the low block as well when we're defending really deep and fighting for our lives. And then also, can we get from those situations where we're off the ball and turn them into dangerous positions where we're quick in the counter-attack and actually hurt teams? That is the plan for today, and I want to hear your thoughts. Straight away, get in the chat below and let me know what you think. How can Manchester United tinker with this shape? Keeping Amorim ideas, of course, always, because he is the manager, but put your spin on it. How can we start to fix this problem? And whilst you guys are typing that out, I'm going to have a quick look through the chat and see what I have missed. Where is the Sesko video? I was expecting you would make a video about him. I'm working on it. I am working on a Sesko video right now. It will probably be out tomorrow. Yeah, because Thursday we've got United match. So that will be then. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow evening, perhaps. I try and get these videos out for you guys as quick as possible. But I also want to put plenty of time into actually scouting the player. I don't like to sit here and go, I'll tell you this, then this about Sesko when I've actually only watched 90 minutes of him. I think it's really good to try and get a larger sample size to watch a lot of him. So it might mean the video is a little bit slower. Other channels may get there quicker, but I reckon a lot of them haven't actually watched him properly. They're just kind of spouting out what I've heard from other people. I like to do my own research, so it will take a little bit longer, but it should be here tomorrow because he is a player that I've followed for a couple of years, so we do know a little bit about him. So that's good fun. Watkins as the solution now, then Højlund redemption arc as the understudy. That's obviously one of the upsides to signing Watkins over Sesko. Less blockage in the squad, we let the other players come through still. Is that the way forward? Potentially. To be honest, I wouldn't mind Sesko because he would have better and Premier League proven players around him. Exactly, that's the point I was making, yeah. Cunha and Mbeumo is very different to Garnacho and Amat in terms of experience. Same case can be made for Højlund as well. Yeah, he will also have more Premier League experience around him as well. It's a really tricky one, that striker situation. Finances are going to be a big part of it. Of course they are. We don't fully understand the financial situation. We know that United are seemingly on a slightly tight budget, but can also apparently throw around 70 million at Sesko, so we will never fully understand the ins and outs of that. But I think we could sign either of them and still go get another player. That's my view on it, but I don't have any sort of inside information, so don't take that as gospel. Ugarte is class. I think he was so good at the weekend. I think Ugarte's got his flaws, and I'm more than happy to point them out because I think they exist, and I will do that with any player that has flaws. But also, when a player puts in a good performance and showcases their strengths, we've got to talk about it. Ugarte the other day showed his strengths because, can I find him? He's up here somewhere. Here he is. The way that he was jumping out of the block into midfield to win the ball back was great. Now, I think we were helped by the fact that West Ham were really bad. There's no dressing that up. They were poor. But from a Manchester United point of view, you can only beat what's in front of you. And we did that. I think we were the better team. And I think Ugarte was huge to that. I don't know that we actually possessed a great threat when we were slow on the ball, when we were controlled and trying to sort of build through the phases. I actually felt we were at our most dangerous when we let West Ham initially have the ball at the back, so not in a high press. But then as that ball would come into midfield, I think Ugarte and Kobe to an extent, but more so Ugarte, were really, really good at snapping into those tackles in midfield. The only problem we've got, and we saw it for the goal, was there is still that space in behind them. There's so much work for our back five to do, and it's really, really tricky. And I think the back five are going to improve. I think the more preseason time they get, the more training time, all of that stuff, they will get better. They will understand the timings, the movements better, and they will do a greater job of stepping into midfield and connecting in that way. Having said that, I think it's a very difficult job, and you can get better at it, but are you ever going to be perfect? That's something that we perhaps need to try and figure out in this stream, because I think it's a problem that we do need to be solving. Also, by the way, guys, if you take a quick look in the chat, at the top of the chat, there is a pinned message with a link to our Discord server. Completely free to join. Like, there's nothing hidden. Just click the link and you will be in a server with over 600 people, pretty much all of them Manchester United fans, in a really chilled environment, just talking about football, transfers, tactics, United match days, a little bit of gaming, some random waffle, everything. So check out the Discord, completely free. get yourself involved. David, thank you very much for the link. And yeah, if you could leave a like as well whilst you're there, that would be great. Anyway, let's sort this out. What do we think? Because in moments I like it. In moments I like what we're doing. I loved the way the other day we jumped out. I think that was really good. There's a lot of talk these days that you have to be a constant man-to-man high press. And I think you need to be able to do it always. I think you always need to have that ability as a team. But you don't always have to do it. You know, you need to have it in the locker if you need to go to it. But I don't think you have to high press relentlessly man-to-man every single game. I think the West Ham match proved that. Sometimes you can sit in more of this mid-block, wait for the moments, force the opposition into passes that they don't want to play, nick the ball. Great, let's go from there. Ugarte, like I said, was amazing at doing that at the weekend. However, when we can't do that, when we can't get our snappy tackles in right, and again, it's a difficult job, we've got two problems. One is the gaping hole behind the midfielders. And the reason that is there is because we play with a back five. If we play with a back five, literally 5 is more than 4, right? So we've got an extra defender. If we've got an extra defender, that means we've got one less midfielder or forward. In this case, it's one less midfielder. So we can often be outnumbered and overwhelmed in there a little bit. Not helped by the fact that we don't have the most athletic midfielders. I think that's fair to say. We don't have the most mobile guys in the heart of the pitch. So that is a problem. It's a lot of work for our midfield too. And if they don't get it spot on every time, which is inevitable in a 90-minute match, we've got a problem behind them with connecting. I said there's 2 problems. That's kind of the problem. They tie in together. 5 is more than 4 at the back. If you've got 5 at the back, you've got less players elsewhere. And the problem with that is that at times this squad is intelligent, right? And it goes, okay, so we can't quite win the ball when we try and snap higher. We try and win it. It's not working. So what we need to do is actually just sit a little bit deeper. And we go into more of the 5-4-1. A more compact shape. Of course it is. So many people behind the ball. Lovely and compact. But then you're really sacrificing the ball. Manchester United are letting the opposition have the ball. Suddenly the right backs for the opposition can carry the ball forward very comfortably. And we play in a league stacked with so much quality, where I just feel the second you're given the opposition 50% possession almost every game, which is happening at United at the moment, you're going to give them a chance. You're going to give them an opportunity. They have enough quality that they're going to hurt you. So what United need to try and do is find more opportunities to jump a little bit higher. It's all well and good being in a mid-block and letting the opposition have the ball. But I think there's got to be a moment where you're more aggressive. At times, we did that very well at the weekend. At times, the problems were still very evident. For me, personally, I still think we need one more. One more just a little bit further forward. I think we need to try and shift to a back 4 in the block. I think we do. I don't know if you guys disagree at all. I just think it's tough. I think it's very tough to be in a back 5 and be aggressive. There's just certain instances where wingers, for example, are moving into gaps where we don't quite seem sure if it's the wing back that is responsible or the centre back. And when you've got 2 players unsure, you've got a problem. Because sometimes you'll see them both go towards it, which means space is created for someone else. Or they'll both leave it to the other guy, and now this guy has time on the ball to get it and turn. So we need to try and find a way of fixing that, of addressing that. And I don't fully know what it is. I do think in a back 4, it would be a bit easier, because I think it's a bit clearer, the role between a fullback and a centre-back, rather than a wing-back and a centre-back. But do we have solutions outside of the back 4? Let me know what you think. Our aggressive mid-block worked. I think it worked really well. Again, it's just a consistency thing. When we do it, lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. But when we don't do it, we make it so easy for the opposition to gain the territory on us. And in a way, I don't actually hate that, right? I always say you don't have to have the ball to be in control. The opposition can have the ball, but as long as you're commanding where it's going, you still got control. But the bigger issue for me is we're not a great team at scoring goals, right? We're not great at scoring goals. We don't attack particularly quickly. We're not a particularly dangerous transitioning side, which we'll look at in just a moment. So every time we let the opposition walk up the pitch 40 yards, we're really giving ourselves a lot of work to try and do to then get the ball back into the net, to the attacking third. We're not great at progressing the ball, but we give ourselves so much ball progression work to do by being passive. When we're passive, the opposition literally walk forward sometimes. And that means whenever we do win the ball back, we're so far away from the opposition goal. If we could just squeeze collectively as a team a little bit higher, get more pressure on the ball, I think we'd see United overturning possession higher up the pitch in more dangerous positions, and then we're closer to goal, right? It's less distance to travel. So I think if we could improve the defensive side of the game, being a bit more aggressive, then I think we would see an attacking improvement, because we would get more of the ball in more dangerous positions, more chances created, which hopefully leads to more goals. So this isn't just about, stopping conceding goals at the back. It's also about making us a more proactive team, I guess, really, to improve that final third play. And that's where the defence really, really does tie in with the attack. And I think it's something that we're going to have to work on this season, because there was too many games last season, I think particularly at Old Trafford, where we're letting the opposition have too much of the ball. And I don't mean to be almost like a snob in this sense, but we're Manchester United playing at Old Trafford. And I just feel that when your Ipswichers, for example, I can't remember the exact game, but, if a team like Ipswich can come to Old Trafford and take 45% of the ball, it shouldn't be happening, in my opinion. It shouldn't be the case. I don't think we should accept that. So that's where we need to make that improvement. Switch to a 3-5-2 with Cunha and Mbumo up top, 5-3-2 out of possession. Is that as opposed to signing like a proper striker? We need pressure on the ball. We need more buy-in, not another body. The problem I've got, I completely get your point. The problem we've got, right, is these players can work their backsides off. They can work their backsides off. But at the end of the day, if you're pressing as a 3 against a 4, there's always a chance you're going to get outnumbered and that they'll find a spare man. The midfield, pardon me, is the bigger problem for me. There's too many instances where it becomes a 3v2. And I don't know how much football you guys have played in your lives. But at any level, you know when you're outnumbered, don't you? You know when you're outnumbered, whether it's a counter-attack or just a normal move, whatever. If you know you've got you and your mate in midfield and the opposition have got 3, we've all played those games where you just physically can't get close to them because they've always got the spare one, and it feels like no matter what you do, you get outnumbered and played round. United seem to have that problem in midfield. And like I said, when you combine that with the lack of athleticism in there, I think it's still a problem for us. I think it's a real issue. What are your thoughts on having Ahmad drop deep in the defensive shape? You reckon Amorim switches or makes changes to the out of possession shape? I think Alex asked this a moment ago as well. I think Ahmad had a tricky game on Saturday. And the issue I had with it is I don't mind Ahmad as a wing back at all. I think on the ball, particularly, it can be really useful for us. I think it allows us to get an extra attacking player on the pitch. He's holding the width on the right-hand side like a winger would do. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Hopefully, he's going to be able to link with Mbumo. Cool. Lovely. Looking forward to it. But defensively, if we shifted to a back 4 off the ball, and let's just look at how we could do that, right? This is the way that you could shift to a back 4 off the ball. You could do something like this. United are very capable of doing this. In this instance, Ahmad is defending as a right midfielder. That's his position. Perfect. Lovely. He's in a high position where he can apply pressure, which he instinctively wants to do. But also, if he wins the ball back, he's in an advanced position. He can go and attack. The problem I've got, and the problem I had at the weekend, was defensively, there's moments where the ball is over here on this side of the pitch, and West Ham are sort of slowly moving the ball through the pitch. And you look over to the far side, and Ahmad is responsible for the opposition fullback. And someone made a great comment on Twitter about, we've taken Ahmad, maybe our best player last season, certainly up there with Bruno. But certainly one of our most dangerous players. A player that can carry the ball, that can dribble, that can create, that can do stuff in the final third, takes responsibility. We love that profile. And we've almost given him the task of dealing with the opposition fullback. That shouldn't be happening. That shouldn't be happening. It should be the other way around. The opposition fullback should be dealing with Ahmad. So I think we need to try and find a way to flip that. At the moment, we're very easy to pin. The opposition push the player forward, the wing back collapses into the back 5. We've got Ahmad pinned into the back line. What we should actually be doing is having Ahmad further forward, pinning the left back, saying if you're going to throw your left back forward, we're going to absolutely rinse you on the counter attack because we've got Ahmad in this position. So I think that's what we need to change. It's only a small tweak. We're still in the 3-4-3. Ahmad is still a wing back. We've still got 3 centre backs and a left wing back as well. But just by changing that starting position defensively, it's the same personnel, but it just gets us a little bit higher. And I think it changes the mindset of the team, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm just kind of bored of seeing United in those games where we get pinned back and can't seem to get out. It's becoming a bit frustrating. It's becoming a little bit frustrating. Do you think Yoro and Heaven as the wide centre-backs made us look better, basically, just because of their profiles and time learning the system? Pretty much, I think they are, if you could almost mould a wide centre-back, it would look like those two. Certainly on the ball. Off the ball, particularly with Heaven, a few more questions. But I think on the ball, yeah, they're more adventurous players. And, we're putting players into these positions that need to be adventurous. If you put an adventurous player there, great, right? It's more of a natural matchup. So I think that was a lot of it. Some of it is also probably the movement in front being better because of training time and learning the system, things like that. But yeah, I think they are just suited to it, to be honest. The best thing is to defend with a 4-4-2. That seems to be the go-to solution in world football at the moment. That really seems to be the go-to. We see, I don't know the exact numbers, but I would say, I'd throw out numbers, 70% of the teams in the Premier League at the moment tend to defend in a 4-4-2. And the reason why teams are doing this is because so many teams build up possession with a back three, a double pivot, and then that box shape. So there's kind of a 3-4-3 like what we do. And the reason why the 4-4-2 is good against this, I did a video on this, by the way, before teams started doing it. It's on the channel from a while ago, so check it out if you fancy. But your front two can do a really nice job of blocking the opposition's double pivot. And then your wide midfielders can affect this ball from the centre-back to the wide player. So this is why teams have shifted to the 4-4-2. The problem is, and I don't know if you guys saw this, in the Euros final at the weekend, of course, won by England. What a game. Spain played in a 4-3-3 and England were in a 4-4-2. So what we saw in that game was why 10 years ago everyone moved away from the 4-4-2. Because what happens when you play with the 4-4-2 defensively and teams go into the 4-3-3 is you get two natural holes that start to appear. One is here between midfielders and centre-backs. One is here between midfielders and forwards. I can't remember the name of the Spanish player, but the Spanish holding midfielder done a great job for 60 minutes of causing England a real problem, because she would drop into this position here, and it's basically a 3 versus 2 here. And if our 2 dropped onto the pivot, then the 2 centre-backs had all the time in the world. If the 2 forwards pushed onto the centre-backs, then the pivot now had time. Is this something which potentially we're going to see in men's football? I don't know. I feel that Tottenham under Postecoglou, for example, at times were sort of in this shape, the 4-3-3, and Basuma would get the ball in this position. So 4-4-2, yes, is used by a lot of people, but football's always going through this tactical cycle. Always going through this tactical cycle. It's nothing new. It's the same thing, just rinsed and repeat, but in different generations, different eras. I think with everyone playing a 4-4-2 at the moment, we are going to see teams moving back towards more of a 4-3-3 on the ball at some point. Is there an opportunity for United to try and be ahead of that? Tactically? I don't actually know. That's something to discuss. For example, even just the 4-2-3-1 off the ball, rather than the 4-4-2. It's kind of a nice blend between the two. Could you do that at United? I would suggest so. This could be a striker. This could be Mbumo, Cunha, let's say Bruno, Ugarte, Ahmad. Something to consider. Something to consider. We've got Steve in the chat with the 9-month membership. Steve, thank you very much, saying, wow, he liked the stream and it made him cooler. And Steve's a pretty cool guy. So for liking the stream to make him even cooler, I think you need to leave a like and try it out, right? Because who doesn't want to be cooler? Steve, thank you very much. As always, guys, you know what to do. Fill that chat with some green love hearts for the boy Steve, because he's a legend. He is a legend. I think Cunha has proved that he could cope as the left inside forward to a left midfielder in a 4-4-2 over the first 2 matches. That was one of our concerns about that shape. It absolutely was. It was definitely something that we discussed. Where's Cunha? Here he is. Could he play in this deeper position? Now, I think what we've seen in the 2 preseason games so far is Cunha going, shut up, I work hard. Right? There's been so many conversations from certain parts of the internet about Cunha signing. Is he lazy? He walks more than anyone else in the league, and all that waffle. He's proven in the first 2 games that he can work hard. We've seen a lot of really good defensive work from him going forward, and a little bit going back as well. The only thing I would say about moving him into almost like a left midfield position is there's a difference between being willing to go and press as a forward. Forwards just like moving forward. They like to be aggressive towards the opposition goal. If they've got an opportunity to go that way, they're going to take it. There's a difference between that, the pressing work, and actually saying now you've got to run backwards. For example, Rashford, who got a lot of criticism for this, was better at pressing than he was tracking back, because pressing, in his head, he thought, I'm getting closer to the opposition goal, more chance of scoring. I don't mind doing it, even though he still wasn't great. Defensively, though, you're running away from the opposition goal. And as a forward, I'm thinking, I want to score, but I'm just tracking back further and further away from the opposition. So it is a different sort of message that you're asking for of a player. A player that can press isn't necessarily a player that can track back. So again, it's an interesting blend. We're going to have to see this with Cunha. We're going to have to see how it works. Hopefully in pre-season we see some sort of experiment where we do see him deeper on the left. I think we saw him briefly in those moments against West Ham, and I thought he performed, to be honest. I think he was good quite again. I never thought I could be any cooler. I did what Steve did, and miraculously, I do indeed feel cooler. It works. It works. Thank you very much for the support, my friend. I think Fredrickson has got a shot at United in the central centre-back position. Trying to think who that would leave around him and the age that would leave the back three at. I'm very wary of making the team a little bit too young, a little bit too inexperienced at the back. Mainu can do what Baleba does. He has to be developed. Yes, we have a Kobe Mainu video coming out this afternoon looking at the new role that Amorim has created for him, why it suits Kobe, but why he also has work to do as well. Video on that this afternoon. Would you move the central centre-back up like we do in build-up, but out of possession as well to get four of the back? I love the question, my friend, because I haven't seen anyone on the internet anywhere ask it. I like it. I like it. It's an interesting question. Obviously, on the ball, we start as a back five, but we see one of the centre-backs, the middle one, go into midfield. The question there, from Club Indigo, is could we do the same off the ball? Could we do the same off the ball? Could we have a centre-back who goes and plays in the pivot out of possession? Possibly. Now, I think defensively it's going to create quite a lot of work. It's quite a lot of ground cover from that position. Running about in midfield, putting out fires in there, screening is very different to playing in the back line. Do we have someone that can do that? Possibly. And this is where there's something that I want that I don't think Amorim will ever do. And that is a midfielder instead of a central centre-back. Because I think what it would allow Amorim to do, if he was to do it, I don't think he will. I think it would allow him to keep the same exact shape throughout the whole pitch, but get a different profile on the pitch. Right, so in that first phase, bit of a tangent here, but in that first phase, right, we know that Amorim likes to do this. He likes to do this. This centre-back goes into midfield. Imagine if that was just a midfielder playing there. It would just be easier. We know that as we get a little bit higher up the pitch, so let's push this team forward, let's get Cunha high, let's get it right forward. Can't see the wing back behind my mic. We know that on the ball, we like to go into this shape. Right, central centre-back here. Again, there's no reason a midfielder couldn't do this. Toni Kroos made a career of dropping into the back three and getting on the ball. Busquets was a player that was amazing at dropping deep and getting on the ball. Now, yes, I know I'm talking about some of the greats there, but it is a role that people can do. Why not get a midfielder to do it? Defensively, it would allow United at times to go into a back four. The wing-backs could come a little bit deeper. That centre-back could step out into midfield, be aggressive. That could just be a midfielder doing that job. And still, a midfielder can drop into the back five in the low block if it's what we need. Like, it would be the exact same shape throughout every phase for Amorim, but just changing the profile, I think would give everyone a completely different outlook. Because everyone would go, oh my God, we're playing a 4-3-3. Amorim is the truth. We're going to win the Premier League. When actually, in each phase, it would be the same shape, just a different type of player. But I think it would make such a drastic change at this football club. Just something to think about. A complete tangent from what we're meant to be talking about today, but something to think about. We got a £5 super chat in the chat from Akiba. Thank you very, very much for the support. Guys, you know what to do. Love hearts in the chat. I'm starting to think we don't need a number 9 and just play a false 9, with Bruno, Cunha and Mbumo rotating. I also think Højlund as a 10 could be underrated. Not a traditional 10, I don't think, but as one of these inside forwards, possibly. I think it was something that was spoken about last season, right? Where, because Amorim done it at Sporting at times, he'd sometimes play a centre forward in that right forward or left forward zone. Obviously, we saw Xerxes doing something similar. It'd be a very different profile of player, but I see how that could work. In terms of the first comment about the number 9, I kind of agree. Apart from the fact that if we aren't signing a 9, we've sort of played ourselves a little bit with the signings so far. But could you go, for example, could you go, let me find some people. Let me find some people. Could you go with that front three? Is there enough firepower there? Are you going to score enough goals? Because if you are, you've got Bruno in a more advanced position, which is great. Then you can get Kobe in the team, which I think we need. Perhaps you sign a more athletic midfielder, Venugarte, at that point, possibly. But I think you're onto something. We don't have to sign a striker. We don't have to. If we do, make it a good one, please, please. But we don't have to sign a striker. I do agree with you. I do think we have other solutions. Like you said, Bruno could also go into a false nine, almost behind the other two at times. Cunha could have stints up front. It could be very rotational. Total football. I like it. Also, thank you very much for the donation. Very kind of you, sir. Boom, 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 boom. Guys, did we discuss about the issues in United's pressing setup? That was more of a conversation in the last stream. It is still up on the channel if you want to go check it out. It is still on the channel, so you can go watch it. I don't think in the central centre-back, Casemiro has the right positional awareness or the legs to play there. Yeah, perhaps not Casemiro, perhaps a different player. You probably would be looking at recruitment at that point. Almost perhaps a younger Casemiro would be what you would want, but we don't have that. But I do think, all I'm saying is, in terms of that last tangent, you don't have to change anything about the shapes. You can just change the profiles you got on the pitch, right? How many conversations did we have last season about, let's not have a fullback out wide, let's have a winger. It's the same shape, but when you change the instincts that you've got in the zone by playing a different player there, you get something very different, even though in terms of shape, structure, tactics, it's still the exact same. I think it is something for us to think about as the time that Amorim develops, as things go on. Hopefully, in my head, Amorim gets to a point where he realizes that he can achieve the exact same things, but perhaps he can take a different approach to get there. I think that would be quite nice to see. Him becoming a bit more flexible and having different solutions to get to the same goal. I think that's something that he could do. I think you just rotate them all mid-game too, throw Hoyle and Ahmad in there for depth. Yeah, even someone like Mount, of course, could play in that sort of role as well. Who else we got? Xerxes, of course, someone that would go into the conversation as well. I kind of like the 45 million Watkins reports. Me too, my friend. Me too. I'm really tempted, depending on how quickly things happen, I'm really tempted to do a stream, perhaps on Friday. Watkins, Sesko, let's have it. Our conversation about who's better for the system, who's better for the price, squad, whatever, who we should sign. I'm tempted to do a stream on that. Very tempted. If you guys want that, do let me know. Do let me know. Anyway, let's get back to this. What do you guys envision as a good defensive shape for United? Because we still haven't properly addressed that. We're too passive still. Too many gaps here. Look, big old gap, big old gap. So much room there that we struggle to deal with. If we drop our inside forwards into those zones, well, now look how passive we are, and it's easy for the opposition to come forward. Have we got any other solutions as to how we can fix this? I love the shout of moving the middle centre-back into midfield. I definitely think that's something that we can do. I also think we can rotate to the 4 in a different way. 4-5-1 if we wanted to. 4-4-2 if we wanted to. 4-3-3-1 if we wanted to. Multiple shapes that we could go into depending on the opposition. I guess the question is the personnel that you guys feel that will help that, but also how we go about doing it. Something I want to hear from you guys. We have already finished 2 sagas, Mbumo and Gyökeres. Now we are in another one with Sesko. It's how we do things, right? If there's not a release clause, it's going to take us 3 years to get the deal done. This is kind of how it works at the moment. We should only buy ceiling raisers now, especially with no Europe, unless we have major sales. We don't want to end up with an average squad. Completely agree. Completely agree. I don't see the value right now in signing a load of backup players unless they're young. You know, young players that in a couple of years are going to raise the ceiling lovely. I don't see the point in signing 28-year-olds to come sit on the bench, for example. I think we're better off improving the starting 11 and pushing the current starters to the bench. That's how I would do it to improve the squad. Shame we missed out on Anton Stack. Yeah, I think he would have actually been a lovely option for what we've just discussed. Ah, yes, David, you're 352. Let's get to it. Talk me through it in the chat, my friend. Because I think a lot of people like this idea. We saw Inzaghi with Inter several seasons in a row playing a back 3, sort of a 3-5-2, having a lot of success, going deep in the Champions League. Struggling a little bit in the league at times. perhaps, which may point to a flaw in the system. But let's have a look at it. Have I got enough players on the screen? I have. How would a 3-5-2 work in terms of the players we've got, who fits the roles, and also tactically, what does it mean for us? Are there positions where we get overloaded or not? I believe, let me just think. I don't want to get this wrong, but I'm sure I did a video on Amorim's last Champions League game at Sporting. It was that game against City. Did I do a video or was it a thread I done on Discord for members? One of the two. I'm sure, if I'm remembering correctly, we saw Sporting in the first half not actually play particularly well despite winning the football match. And what they did for large parts was they played in the traditional Amorim shape, if you like. And there were problems in this zone here, sort of behind inside forward. They really struggled with that space. Sporting. City overloaded it, exploited it regularly, like really regularly. What Sporting eventually did was dropped one of the front three. They might have made a sub, I can't quite recall. They dropped one of the front three a little bit deeper and it just completely blocked that zone. Is that something that United could be looking to do? If so, how, I guess, in terms of who goes where? Who would become part of the front two? So let's, unfortunately, take Kobe out. Never going to feel happy doing that. But let's say United, for example, are like this. How does the 3-5-2 work? In the sense of the two inside forwards, Cunha and Mbumo, who's the one that you drop a little bit deeper? That would be my question. You know, when it's a Kobe in the front three, it's obvious it's him. When it's Bruno in the front three, it's obvious he can drop deeper. Mount, he can drop and help out in midfield. Out of these three, who would it be, is the question that I would ask. Cunha? Possibly, but does he want to be defending in midfield? Potentially. It gives him an out ball. It gives him the chance to get on the ball and drive and carry, so he might look to do that. I think the good thing about this shape would be we're less likely to get overloaded in midfield because we would have three in there. So we could still use the two strikers in these positions to match up with the opposition centre-backs, but hopefully match up a bit more effectively in midfield. I think that's something that we could do. I think the problem would be the wing-backs and jumping. In terms of, you can kind of see it's kind of naturally happened whilst I've been wiggling them about here. For example, let's say the ball's here. I just got rid of the ball. How do I get my ball back? Come my ball back, please. Here we go, let's get the ball back. If the ball was here, Højlund naturally would be there, right, as the striker, as part of the front two. Let's say we're picking up in midfield. I don't know, let's put the position flat just for this conversation, right? Let's do that. So we're in a 3-5-2 like this. Who's responsible for that player there, the fullback? Is it as that pass goes, the midfielder's got to jump out, which we've potentially got the personnel to do. We've got some energy that can do that. Or is it the wing back? If it's the wing back, we are then asking for that shift right across. If the wing back's going to be jumping to the fullback, then we are then looking for centre backs that can deal with the channels. Do we have that? To an extent, yes, I think we do. Yoro, Heaven, Shaw, Mazraoui, Dallo, they could probably all play in that sort of role where you're jumping out into that position. That's something that we could look at. I think what I would want to do is only do it one side. So rather than literally pushing both wing backs super high, you know, rather than doing this and being very aggressive, I'd probably push one at a time. So I think it would be the job of the front two to force the opposition one way, and I think they've got to be better at doing that. I don't think we do that well enough currently. I think they would have to almost make the decision for us, the forwards, as to what way we're pressing. So if we're forcing the ball down this way, I would want to see the right wing back stepping up, being aggressive, then the rest of the back line shifts across. Then we've probably still got +1 on the back line, which would be great. And if we're being aggressive enough, we can trap the opposition man-to-man this side and use the best defender in world football. What's the best defender in world football? Touchline, right? You can't skill past the touchline, it doesn't work. So if you can trap a team to one side and use that touchline to take out a 180-degree angle of accessibility for the forward, that's something that United could be doing. And I could see that working because we've got that three-man matchup in midfield, which I like. And like I said, it could go the other way as well. So the forwards collectively, these two, might choose to force the ball this way to the right back. Then I want to see my left wing back up there and the team shifting across. The only concern would be if the intensity isn't there, we'd be screwed, right? If we were a little bit slow to this ball here, trying to trap the opposition one side, if we were slow to that, it would be an absolute nightmare because the wing backs have so much work to do. So if you imagine, right, the ball comes across, works the way across, and we eventually get there, but a little bit too slow. The wing back has covered a lot of ground there to be taken out of the game. And basically, if you fail to trap them to one side, the wing backs are going to be doing that all day. And I'm not sure that they can do it. So that would be my concern. But having said that, any system's going to be concerned about the right intensity, right? So perhaps this is a solution moving forward. Is that not basically a 4-4-2 now? Yes. Yes. And this is why starting position is more important than formation. I try to make this point as often as possible because I think in a tactical world that we live in now, there's so much talk about shape, formation, right? Formations are all so very close to each other. They are all so similar, right? Let's reset to the 3-4-3, right? Let's call it a 3-4-3. We are in a 3-4-3 here. Lovely, okay? We can move 2 players to change it to a 4-4-2. Wing back drops a little bit deeper. Inside forward drops deeper. It's 4-4-2. Formations are so close to being a different formation, right? Let's go back to the 3-4-3. Put it like this. Let's ask our middle centre-back to take up a slightly higher starting position, just a few yards. And let's ask the wing-back to drop a little bit deeper. We're now in a 4-3-3. So this is why formation, the label of a formation, isn't the most important thing. It does make it easier in chat to communicate, absolutely, as a starting point. But I don't think we should be limited by formation because all of these formations are so close to each other in terms of what they are. You know, it's why I think it's a lie that a back three can't work because the back three is so close to the back four. It's just about the starting position and where you move more than are we this shape or are we this shape or are we this shape or are we this shape. Got to consider that. So yes, what we were just discussing almost does become a 4-4-2. But the starting position wasn't. And that's where it's important. It's about the starting position. Do we need that extra body in midfield? And if so, does this shape work? Højlund wasn't that bad against West Ham. No, I think he looked bright, and I think, you know, it wasn't special. It wasn't anything to get you off your seat and be like, wow, he's back. You know, he's going to the next level now. But I think he's done what we want him to do, which is work hard, be a nuisance for centre-backs, get himself into the channels and chase lost causes, hassle centre-backs, be in the box when the chances are arriving. You know, he had a couple of shots from the edge. I think it was a good starting point. Something to build on for sure. Last season, we probably didn't have that. He probably never really had that platform performance to build on. Certainly once his confidence went down. Hopefully, that game, despite missing a couple of half-decent chances, hopefully that game can be the one where he goes, okay, that worked. What's next? How can we go to the next level? Hopefully, it's sort of that building block game for Højlund. AJ, who organises the press at the back? Why does it always end up deeper and the centre-backs don't jump into press? Yeah, I don't actually know. I don't know. In an ideal world, it would be as many of them as possible. The more leaders you got in the squad, the better. The communication, the more people talking and pointing, the better. Of course, there is always too many cooks spoiling the broth. We have to be careful of that. But I think the more players that understand the system and really get what their manager wants of them and have the confidence, the social confidence, to express that on the pitch, the better. The more of them we've got, the better. I'm excited about Euro because of his passing range. He's just good, isn't he? He's just good. We've got another super chat in the chat. Super chat in the chat. That always sounds weird saying it, but thank you very much. And I believe in Amorim. I believe in his 3-4-2-1 and the 3-2-4-1 in attack. I just do not trust these players, the old ones, to work for him. They won't. First of all, thank you very much for the super chat. That's very kind of you. What would it take in terms of recruitment for you to trust the players? You know, because obviously, like you said there, it's the old ones you don't trust so much. How many need to change for you to have more faith? Is 4 new centre-backs? 4 new centre-backs? Sorry, I read centre-back in the chat. If we signed 4 players this summer into the starting 11, would that be enough for you to have more trust? Or do you need more like 6, which might take, of course, another year, another transfer window? I'd love to hear. for someone who has more faith in the manager perhaps than what other people do, and a little bit less in the players. What would it take? How many players would it take? What sort of players would it take? You know, what striker would it take, for example, for you to have that bit of faith? I'd be really interested to hear that. But yeah, thank you very much for the super chat. Good morning, AJ. Hope you're well. Not bad at all, thank you. I'm okay after a hospital visit. Apologies for missing a few lives. Mate, you never, ever, 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 ever have to apologise for missing a stream. I hope everything is good now. I'm assuming you're okay after hospital. Yeah, so you're out of hospital at least, but I hope everything is okay, and I wish you all the best, my friend. And yeah, never feel that you got to apologise for missing a stream. Never, 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 never. 16 more likes to hit 100 likes. Oh, we can do that. 16 likes, guys. 16 likes? I think we can do that. So cool. Press like. Also, if you haven't subscribed, press subscribe, please. That'd be pretty fun. A lot of people watch the content, but don't actually realise they haven't subscribed. So if you could, that would be amazing. I've been setting goals left, right, and centre recently, and every time you guys just go smack it. Like, you just destroy the goals every time. Like, I set 65k for the start of the season. You guys got there in about 4 days. I set 70k for the start of the season. We're now at 69k. Like, every goal I set, you guys just destroy it. You just destroy it. Oh yeah, also, Steve, very good point. This is where you're better at the job than me. If you do miss a stream and you want to catch up, you want to watch it back, they are now available on the channel. They do stay up. So we've done 5 of these streams so far. This is the 6th. Every single one of them are on the channel available to watch back. So if you want something to help you fall asleep, why not watch me and nattering on for an hour? It will probably help. Probably help. The players we have now trust Ruben, I think. That's important as well. It's got to go both ways. We need to guarantee the bomb squad don't come back. By the way, I love how those 5 are spoken about. It's the fact that they're called like the bomb squad. And what was the other thing they were called? They were given another nickname as well by some journalists. Like, they are treated like they've done some absolute horror crimes when what they've really done is not be very good at football or not train particularly hard. Like, I agree with getting them out of the club, by the way. But it is quite funny. Also, what's Malasia done wrong? Why is he even lumped in there, bless him? Already 103 likes. This is what I mean. When I set a goal, you guys are insane. Insane. I wish United could hit goals like you guys could, because I tell you what, we'd win the league every season. David has said, can we get 150 likes this stream? That's over to you guys. Chad reckons there's over 300 people here. So just half the people liked would be 150. Give it a go. Give it a go. Why not? I don't see how United push past other teams with only 2 signings. I think it's completely fair. That's 2 injuries from the squad that played in the Europa final. Yeah, I think that's a completely valid point. I think the hope is also that we're not just relying on signings. Yes, we need signings. Yes, we need new players. The squad has to be better. We know that. But I do think also some of the gap can be, what's the word? I don't know how we can gain on some of the teams ahead of us because we were so bad, if you know what I mean. Like, the scope for growth is really there. So hopefully tactically as well, we can make big adjustments to move forward. Have we seen that this summer? Not so far. Not as much as I would like. I think we need progress still tactically. I think we are improving a little bit, which is good. We are missing the spine of the team with the goalkeeper, the holding midfielder, and the striker. A 3-window project. Yeah. I think I agree with those 3 positions, to be honest. And I do think next summer we might need a centre-back as well. I've said it for a while now. I think 2026 central centre-back is a conversation. We're not going to have it right now, but I think it will be a conversation. We'll see. Your videos have been popping off in my recommendations, and I'm hoping you hit 100k soon. Thank you very much. We're trying. Pardon me, I do apologize. We are trying. I don't know. I'd love 100k this year. 2025, 100k would just be insane. It would just be insane. We're going to give it a good go. We are going to give it a good go. By the way, I only found you recently, and you're easily the most natural United analyst on YouTube. Keep it up. And don't start using AI for scripts, lol. Not naming names elsewhere. Thank you very much for the kind words. Don't worry. I like my personality to shine through in these. And I'm very aware that, like, you say I'm natural at it. I actually like very much wasn't at the start. It's very unnatural to me to do this sort of thing. Any sort of public speaking. I had a lot of like social anxieties in the past and stuff. So I'm not someone who naturally talks very well. But I almost like that coming through in videos. I feel like I've got a natural awkwardness, which kind of adds to the content a little bit. So I'm never going to move away from, like you said, can AI generate the scripts and stuff. I like my sometimes a little bit of awkwardness to actually shine through in these streams and the videos as well. So yeah, thank you very, very much. Mate, not to pick holes in your analysis, but I was just wondering why it's in United's interest for its manager to move away from a system he understands and has had success with. Good question. Yeah, very good question. I was trying to think of the best way to approach answering it to make sure I answer it how I want to. Give me a sec. A manager being comfortable with a system is a good thing, right? We love that. We're trying to, asking a manager to try and coach something he himself doesn't understand is going to be impossible. You can't teach if you don't know, right? If you don't have the knowledge yourself, you can't teach your players to do that. I get it. But if what you're trying to teach is bad, not saying it is, but if it was, it's not great teaching that, right? If you've got a system, which again, I'm not saying this is the case, but let's just put it out there. If you've got a system which is bad, doesn't matter how comfortable you are with it. If you're comfortable with bad, that's not really much use. Now, again, I'm not saying 3-4-3 is a bad system. It can work, but I think Amorim will know himself that his system has flaws. He himself, as a manager, changed, particularly at Sporting. His idea at the start was different to what it was at the end. It was still largely a back three all the way through, but things would change, players would go into different places as he realised certain things that weren't working. No system's perfect, right? Perfect system doesn't exist. But I think, we can be comfortable in a system, but it may not be the right system to be comfortable in. I think that's what I'm trying to say, and I think I've hopefully got that across a little bit. I think. I'm not asking for Amorim to change it. I'm not asking for him to rip it up and go, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to play a 4-4-2 diamond for the rest of my life. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for just slight tweaks. It's not about ripping it up and starting again. It's just about changing little things, tweaking, evolving, I would say. Guardiola, every season, the principles, the philosophy is the same year on year. But every single year, he does something just a little bit different. He just tweaks it. He's got the same end goal in his head, but he changes how he goes about getting there. One year it'll be high and wide fullbacks. Super high aggressive fullbacks. The next year, the fullbacks are playing in midfield as part of the deepest phase of build-up. The next year, we see John Stones playing as a central midfielder despite starting in centre-back. So I think it's about not changing, just adapting, evolving, as moving with the times as the league develops, as your team develops and changes, moving with it. This team isn't the same team that we had last season. It's not the same team he had at Sporting. It's not the same team he had at Braga. So you do have to sort of move with it. I'm not asking for complete diving away from it. It's just small things. It's just small things. I'm not asking him to completely move away. The back four in possession versus Leeds happened on 2 occasions, but not at all versus West Ham. Yeah, I feel that in pre-season, and this is going to come back to today's discussion, the defensive stuff, we haven't seen an awful lot of United. We're set up, we've got the ball, we're on the halfway line, this is our shape, this is kind of where we are, this is how we're trying to progress the ball. I don't feel like we've seen that much of that. Part of that is because defensively we've been passive, so teams have come through us and had a lot of the ball, which has reduced our possession. I would like to see that in the next game. More of United on the ball and having dominant phases where we can get a better idea of, this is what we're trying to do. I think in that first game against Leeds, we saw a lot more central progression, actually. I think that was something that we were looking at. And what I was really hoping for was that against West Ham, we would continue that central progression. And I could do a video on it because we didn't do it last season. So to see that in 2 games this year would have been exciting. But yeah, then in the second game, we didn't see it so much. So it's a bit of a tricky one. By the way, can we just look at this little analogy in chat? Tactics are like Pokemon. They need to evolve to get better. And right now, Amorim's losing his gym battles. Love it. Love it. The answer is it is being exploited in the league by the opposition. System isn't about the principles. That's what Pep always says. Yeah, exactly. You can have your principles, but you can apply those principles in so many different ways with so many different players in so many different positions and zones and things like that. I think that's the point we're trying to make there. I perhaps didn't get it across very well right on cue after the previous discussion. Okay, thanks. I'll limit myself to one question per stream. You do great stuff as always. Good consistency. All the best. Thank you very much. Like I said, it's a great question. It was a great question. I think a question which makes me sit there and go, let me have a think, is the sort of questions that we should be asking, right? It challenges thoughts, and I think that's what we should try and do in the world of football. I think there's weirdly a lot of agreement going on in football at the moment. Certainly tactically, there's certain metas that we all agree upon. I think it's great to ask those questions which challenge it and go, yeah, okay, but actually, why? Or what if we do this? Or whatever, things like that. I do like that a lot. We've got another super chat, by the way. The support today is popping off. Adele, thank you very much. I agree on adaptation, but the players need to learn the basics of his system first. I've got a good comment to make on that. Also, we're failing at football fundamentals. Simple 5-yard passes cost us goals last season. And that's where I'm fully with you, mate. First of all, thank you very much for the super chat, guys. Love hearts in the chat. But yeah, this is where I'm with you. Because is there a chance, and this is almost giving Amorim the benefit of the doubt here, is there a chance that that's why we felt so basic last season? I think a lot of us would agree that, we were a bit predictable last year. We were a bit samey, game in, game out. It was sort of the same idea, the same blueprint over and over again. And it didn't feel like it was working. Was that what you've said there? Learning the basics of his system first. Is that what the first 8 months has been about? Now, with more time, plus potentially some new signings, are we going to see the system becoming more complex? And I think a way of doing that would be to put players in 1v1 situations more, to give players more positional freedom, to make, like I said, make the system more complex, less predictable. Perhaps that's what we're about to see. Perhaps that's what's next. And yeah, I completely agree on the failing at football fundamentals as well. It's been a problem for about 5 years now that physically we're not good enough and technically we're not good enough. And also, arguably mentally, we haven't been in terms of mental strength at times. You fail at those three things, you're going to struggle. Hopefully we're working on that. I think physically we've seen improvements already this summer, which is a great first step. Now we need to work on the other two. If Amorim is having to tweak his tactics with the United players, he literally has to change his system because these players are not adaptable at large. I actually just don't agree, unfortunately. I think we've actually got quite an adaptable squad. Yes, there's a way they want to play in terms of, I think a lot of them still want quick football. Bruno wants to get that ball in behind quickly. But I think we've got a lot of versatility in the squad in terms of position, at least. Yeah, maybe you're right in the sense of style. Bruno's direct. Rashford was always direct when he was here. Højlund's direct. They were the players that we would talk about. I think Cunha will be quite direct and Boomer will be direct. It's weird. We've almost got ourselves in this position. I think there's a mixture of philosophies at the club right now. I do. Because it seems like in one moment we want to become this possession-based team. This team that keeps the ball. Almost like, what became the football meta 4 years ago. Part of the club feels like we want that. I think Wilcox is probably involved in that, for example. And then there's moments where we're signing some of the best ball carriers in the division. And Mbeumo and Cunha, some of the most ruthless, speedy, counter-attacking players in the league. Feels like slight confusion there. Hopefully it's us trying to become complete. I hope there's clear messaging at the football club. We don't know. The interesting stat I found in terms of breaking from the low block into a transition moment is this. Last season in the Premier League, since data began, it's the most shots per game we have seen from fast breaks. A lot of talk for the past 8 years now, I'd say. Maybe slightly less. 6 years. About possession, about control, about dominating. I think there's a swing happening in football at the moment. We predicted it. I remember we did a stream where we said the league's about to become transitional. I remember, us lot together came to that sort of idea that I think the league's about to become transitional. The stats back it up. The league has become more transitional. Weirdly, let's go to last season's stats. It's happened at a time just when United are going the other way. Ollie. Counter-attack goals. All the time. Now, just as football is moving towards that fast counter-attack style again, we're going the other way. Is that United always being a little bit behind? Maybe. It's not the most positive thing in the world to look at. Of course, possession affects it and things like that. But Liverpool scored 14 goals in the league from counter-attacks last season. Spurs 10. Arsenal 9. Arsenal were a team that we often say are too slow. United down there in 4th. So whilst a lot of the talk today has been defensive, it's been about improving the structure, trying to get more pressure on the ball and things like that, of course. So much of it also is trying to get the players in the positions so that when we win the ball back, they're in a good area to attack. For example, if the wing-backs are pinned to the back 5, we lack that immediate wide ball. I feel like Old Trafford is known throughout history for winning the ball back, getting the ball wide really, really quickly. A midfielder quickly spraying that pass out wide. Paul Scholes picks it up and pings it to Ronaldo. Of course, 2 pretty good examples. But that's what Old Trafford's been about, that quick, wide football. When you got the wing-backs, you don't necessarily always get that because they are starting in that deeper position. It is one less player further forward to spring. So I think that is something that we need to work on. And I wonder maybe we could do another stream where we look at transition-based stuff on the ball and off the ball. Because we've sort of done on the ball, slowly working through the pitch. We've done off the ball, slowly working through the pitch. Maybe we do one stream now where we do the bits in between. Counter-attacking and attacking quickly. But also, oh bugger, we've lost the ball. They're counter-attacking. We need to react. How can we defend? Maybe that would make a nice sort of final stream for this series that we've been doing. Steve just pointed out the numbers of Brentford and Wolves and says we've just taken their 2 that are best at it. Yeah, like I said, hopefully it's not confusion at the club. Hopefully it's trying to become really well-rounded. I fear there's a slight lack of clarity on the direction we're trying to go in tactically. But hopefully there's not. Hopefully that's me being just pessimistic. Hopefully it's actually the team becoming very complete, where we want to be a team that can control the ball and slowly move through the pitch and dominate teams, but also a team that when we need to can quickly go through the pitch and rip teams to shreds. If we can do that, yeah, that would be lovely. That would be ideal, right? Flexibility. A team that can do both, that can attack you in different ways, that can, kill you with 100 passes and move through the pitch and then find that final pass to kind of cut open your defence, or a team that can sprint 90 yards and run you off the pitch. If we could become a team that can do both, that would be amazing. Defensively, if we can be a team that can press high and win the ball back, but can also drop deep into a low block and be stubborn and difficult to break down, that would be great. That would be great. That's what I want Manchester United to become. It's not going to happen this season, I wouldn't have thought, just because it takes a lot of time to make those changes. We almost need to go from being bad at everything to being good at everything, which doesn't happen overnight. But if that is where we're going, then that is exciting. That is exciting. And when you're adding quality players, like what we've got there, I said it the other day in the stream, there's a lot of talk about the United squad and the lack of quality. We've put 5 players into the team there, 3 of which are Bruno Fernandes and Bumo and Cunha. They're 3 of the most effective players in the Premier League. We've got good footballers at this football club. There's Kobbie Mainoo behind him. There's Ahmad. There's Yoro. There's so much quality here. It's about the gaffer, this fella, getting the best out of them, of course. It's about him and his coaches helping the players to develop. But it is also about the players, picking up some of the slack as well. I think they are all things that need to happen. Are they going to? I don't know, mate. I do not know. Depth is our biggest issue. 4 injuries in midfield and attack, and we're done. I think it's quality of depth as much as anything. Midfield, we got Kobbie, we got Ugarte, we got Casemiro, we got Collier at the moment, or he might go out on loan. Did I say Bruno? Not sure. You got Mount, who could play there if you really were desperate. Like, we've got players there, but is it quite the quality we want? Left wing back, we got Dorgu, Dallo could play there. We've got Diego Leon, we've got Luke Shaw who could play there, we've got Harry Amas who could play there, we've got Mantato who could play there. Is depth, but is there the quality of depth? That's the question that we need to try and answer. By the way, can you hear my door being yeeted by the dog trying to break in? Can you hear that? If so, I do apologise. Anyway, I think we are going to start wrapping the stream up there because I've got a Kobbie Mainoo video for you guys coming out this afternoon that I need to edit. I want to do a video looking at Dorgu and Cunha together because I saw something in that friendly the other day which I think was quite interesting. And I think Dorgu played really well in the first game as well. So I want to do a video on that. It also feels like we've got a Sesko conversation coming up. Plus, we were always waiting for transfers anyway, just anywhere. And then Thursday is match day at 2:30 in the morning, which means another all-nighter. Another all-nighter. I think I might be quite tired by the end of the week. What was the last game? West Ham. Didn't go to bed that night. Stayed up for the game. Recorded it, edited it all overnight so you guys could have it first thing in the morning. I'm still tired, still recovering from it, and we're going to do it all again tomorrow night. So hopefully United put in a good performance tomorrow. In terms of content this week, yeah, that's the idea. You know the videos that are coming, and we should be live on Friday. I will just probably communicate with you guys in Discord. Link in the comments. I'll communicate with you guys about what you want that stream to be. I think transitions personally is quite a good idea because it's almost that bridge in between the conversations that we've had so far. But yeah, the content is not stopping anytime soon. In fact, if anything, I still want to try and do more. So yeah, that's the plan for the future. If you are enjoying the content and you have been supporting the channel, thank you. Thank you so much. The growth recently has been insane. We have gone over 69,000 now, which is mind-blowing. It's a stupidly high number. But we're not stopping. We're going to keep pushing that up. 70k is next. That's the next goal. Then 75, then 80. 100 is the big one. Is it possible this year? 100,000. We need 6,000 a month. Can we do it? I think we can. We just had 9,000 in the last 28 days, so I think we can get there. Like I said, your support has been mind-blowing. And the more support we get, the more we can upgrade. Maybe eventually I can afford to pay an editor, a thumbnail creator, and then we can really take the channel to the next level. So thank you very, 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 very much for the support recently. You guys are legends. If you want to get sort of more involved with the community, head over to the Discord server, trying to make some changes over there as well, trying to make upgrades ahead of the new season, so keep your eyes out for that. Yeah, go check it out, and I will probably catch you guys over there before making this afternoon's video. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed this stream, and as always, I will try and find the end stream button, and then I'll see you. I'm going to try and time this because there's a delay. I'll see you